Okay, did it notify you that it was recording the meeting? Okay. All right, everybody, good morning. So here we are for our dyslexia team meeting. And I'm also going to be watching, I think I have a waiting room set up, which I didn't really mean to do, but I will check on that to make sure if people are joining us. So quick review of our norms: collaboration, decisions, respect time, and action steps. This team has been rocking it this year. Y'all are so incredible. And I just want to say thank you so much for the work that y'all have put into working collaboratively this year. I just have felt such a sense of common collaboration and decision making from this group this year. And I just really want to thank you. It just feels like we've really worked together for common success in this team. And I've just been really impressed and really excited by what I think we've been doing in these meetings. I think we've gotten a lot done. It feels incredibly strong to me. And I just want to say thank you because I think it's been a really successful year so far. And that's just been my takeaway. And I hope you feel the same, but it's just felt really good to me. And so I just want to say thank you to all of you for doing that. And I know it takes a lot of time to come here and sit through some of these like tough problem solving meetings and come up with common feelings about things, but I really appreciate you. And I appreciate you for helping me learn all of these things and figure out what we need to do to support the team and ultimately support students. And I really appreciate all of you. So thank you. And I want to put that on camera and record. Just kidding. I really mean it. Okay. So next, let's jump in a little bit. I kind of want to talk about how the risk review is going. I know some of you are just now kind of jumping into your first big risk review meetings. A few of you were telling me that you've kind of had like a little bit of an initial meeting where you've sort of met maybe like preliminary type meetings where you've gone over some of the structure, like what it's going to look like. So I just wanted to give you a chance to kind of talk about are there any hiccups, any questions that might have come up, anything that we need to tweak so far with the first grade risk review plan that you can think of, or just any feedback that you have.
I think we worked through a lot of things like before really rolling it out. So I think that was really helpful. And
Okay.
I think it would be good to have this conversation again after the actual risk review.
Okay.
We I will say it's going to be different this year from last year in that MTSS is different. So, like, they're submitting these forms and then we're going to review them. So, I'm just kind of curious how the actual meeting will go. The actual risk review meeting is going to go.
I like that idea.
So, we've had some concerns from first grade teachers just wondering about the difference between the TPRI and the MAP fluency.
Okay.
Um, a lot of the kiddos, they feel that should be flagging aren't flagging, and I've noticed that too. Like even kiddos we're already seeing aren't flagging, which I find that very interesting because it's still early on in their literacy journey, I guess you could say. So yeah, it's just a big difference between TPRI and I was curious if any of y'all are seeing that too.
We've definitely seen that on our campus. We have kids that we haven't been seeing for very long, so it shouldn't be nothing should be remediated yet, and they're not flagging. There was one that I just collaborated on, so she hasn't even started receiving services yet, and she didn't flag either. There are a lot of kids that they are thinking should have flagged and they haven't. So we've gotten the same feedback from our first grade teachers.
Okay.
The teachers, she even did TPRI on them also, because I guess they can use that as like a supplement, right?
It's a data point.
Yeah, there you go. That's what I meant. And she said that those kids are
Or the one
flagging.
kid that she did
Okay,
flag.
one of them.
Yeah. flagged on TPRI, but didn't flag on MAP.
So some teachers are still using
Not
TPRI
necessarily for
post map
review.
fluency just because they're concerned.
Yeah, it's just another data point. They're still doing the MAP fluency, and that's what we're taking for risk review because that's what the district is using. And if they flag on TPRI, that's a data point, but we're not doing like I'm not having teachers fill out risk review forms for any of those kiddos because that would be like double
Right,
test,
right.
and we don't need to do that.
Just for their own kind of data to see.
But it's just interesting. Now I know the TPRI the actual assessment. It's some of the questions on there. I'm like, really, should we really be asking first graders this? Do they really know this yet? But yeah, it's just I noticed as I was going through the list, making note of all the names that had flagged. I was like, So things you make you go,
Okay.
We are running into the same thing too. And we thought it was interesting. A couple of our kiddos that flagged, teachers were like, there's no concerns. And we found it interesting that kiddos only have to flag in like one domain to be flagged on the screener. And so like 3 of our kids that flagged only flagged on picture vocabulary. So they didn't even flag on phonics, word recognition, any of the other stuff. So we were like, what is picture vocabulary, right? Like, why? So if they're just below on one thing, then they flagged. And then another question that we really have is what about the kiddos that are approaching in all 4 of the, I guess, like categories, if you would. I don't remember what they are. I don't have it in front of me. I guess language comprehension, phonics and word recognition. So they didn't meet below, but they're approaching on all. And when you look at it, some of them are like in the 24th percentile and the 10th percentile, but they didn't flag. So it's like, what about those kiddos? Like, I think that we have a solid plan for the kids that did flag, but we need to go deeper on the kiddos that didn't but are right there. How are we using the data to drive that?
I've been telling the first grade teachers, bring them to MTSS if you have concerns. Because in essence, I mean, that's what they would normally do. I mean, just because they didn't flag, if you have concerns and you're seeing stuff in the classroom, and if you've started tier 2 and you've got that data and all that stuff, bring them to MTSS and invite one of us and we'll talk about them.
Mm-hmm.
Just so they're not overlooked or missed just because of one assessment. But yeah, yeah.
I'm taking notes on that. Okay. Any other kind of interesting hiccups or questions? I know we've barely begun, so other things might come up. So we'll put this on our March agenda as well as a follow-up. I'll add that to the next agenda for us to kind of have a post-February conversation about that as well, to kind of see how it went, and we'll have a follow-up.
I ask one, just for personal curiosity, how many students flagged like per campus, just to compare? Are we allowed to say or talk about that?
I think that's okay, as long as we don't say names.
We had 7, which
We
is
had 8.
lower than what we've had in the past.
It was a lot lower this year,
Yeah.
from what I understand.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Same. Okay, good to know. Just wanted to see where.
We only had 5 total.
5. Okay. Thanks.
Some of the numbers, from my understanding, were like almost cut in half from some of the numbers last year. So I don't know if that has to do with the assessment, the screener. It's interesting to see. The numbers were definitely a little higher last year. So if you have a question about first grade risk review, definitely reach out. I'm happy to run through that with you. I want it to work for you. So please reach out to me. We'll go over it. Kinder will be coming up in the spring. I do have slides that are very similar to the first grade slides that I'm going to be rolling out. My timeline is kind of early April, late March. Getting it to kind of admin communication will be similar, where I'm rolling it out, kind of letting people know it's coming, getting it into the hands of teachers, admin, and I'll be talking with y'all, of course, and letting you know those things are coming. Um, they're using the text Kia, so I'll have screenshots in the slides so that they've got kind of an idea of what that screener looks like. And I'll share those slides with you, and I've got them all finalized so that you have a preview of them, kind of like the first grade, so you can see those. And I'm just making sure they match the current text Kia images so that I can send out what they actually look like. So that's coming up. Okay, so just a little roundup. Reminder that we have a new document. I'm sure y'all are familiar with this. I sent it out, but I just want to make sure you know it's there. It is attached on the Dyslexia Quick Guide, but it's also a separate document that's linked here. Our art facilitator, Ann Warren, made it for us because I'm like, Ann, I need a visual and I need you, graphic designer, to make this for me. So she very nicely whipped this up for me because I was like, I keep trying to explain it to people and I just need a visual. So this is who attends what ARD. And I think it's just a really nice way to just slide it across a table and show it to someone. So if we're having trouble kind of explaining who needs to be there, or someone on your campus is like, you need to be there. And you're like, actually, I don't think I do, but you're not quite sure how you need to explain that. Hand this to them. You can go through this. It's got all the scenarios on there. If a PDI is needed, a PDI is not. It just really lays it out. So we have that on the Dyslexia Quick Guide, but it's kind of in that side-by-side chart. And that may just be hard for people to interpret sometimes. It's a lot of words, and I understand. So here it is, boom, so they can look at that if they need to. One reminder for you about annual goals in the IEP. From measurable annual goals from year to year in our IEP do have to change. And this is something that's really tricky when our students are continuing to work on skills and they may not master their goals. You may find that the goal was not met and maybe they did not master that skill. And you're really struggling with, they're not at that goal. And I kind of want them to continue to work on that same goal. And I almost need to put in the same skill. And so I want to continue that exact same goal. But the problem is we don't want to put in the exact same goal. We do have to make sure that that measurable annual goal changes from IEP to IEP. But if the student didn't meet it and you know they still have to work on similar skills, we want to dig in and really figure out exactly what they are struggling with. So if you want to talk that out with me and you want to look in, how can we reword this and how can we tweak this to make it really clear that they did not master the goal that they had, but they need to continue working on something similar. Let's problem solve it. I'm happy to work with you on that. This happens a lot in the special ed side. I had a kiddo that was working for 2 years on writing his name. And we were working on that from kinder to first grade, all the way through first grade. And I had to get really creative where his actual annual goal was writing his name. But after a while, I realized he's not doing this. So I had to dig in on, we're going to just work on the first 2 letters, right? Because the annual goal of writing his name was not getting met. So I had to tweak that to the goal became he's going to write the first 2 letters. I couldn't just continue that same goal year after year if I realized he wasn't meeting it. So it's just things like that where you start to just kind of figure out how can I tweak this goal apart a little bit and break down the skills to make it a little bit more achievable or reasonable for that student. It can take a little bit of brainstorming. It can take a little bit of problem solving based on your knowledge of the kiddo. But if you need to talk that out, let's absolutely do it. So if you run into that situation, please give me a buzz. I'll talk through that with you. I can help you with that. Okay, so this,
Anna,
yes.
just to clarify, if it's a fluency goal and the numbers are changing, or if it's a percentage goal and the percentage changes, then that's changing the goal. Yes?
Yes.
even if only like one number, one thing changes, that's still
Yes, I
a
am
goal.
talking about the exact same goal.
Okay, thanks.
Yes. So I'm talking about like I thought, oh, this kid didn't master this goal, so I'm just going to continue the same goal. Right. And in your mind, you're thinking, I want them to achieve this goal. So I'm going to continue it. But what we want to do is make sure that from IEP date to IEP date, we have really analyzed and thought about their progress on that goal, what they have done in that IEP year, their present levels. We've done all of that thinking to figure out where they currently are and what we need to actually do to tweak it. Right. So, yes, if you are changing numbers, you're changing the measurement, you're changing criterion, you're changing things like that, that's a different goal. So, yes. And if you're not sure, call me and I'll help you. Okay. So, this was a suggestion. Any more questions about that? I don't mean to run over that. Any more questions about that? Okay. Um, fifth grade going to secondary. So, kind of making sure that as kiddos are leaving us in fifth grade and going to middle school, that we are making sure everything is really clean, very documented, making sure that we have everything set in stone like we need to. So, making sure first that in the ARD meeting, we clearly state whether the student does or does not need to continue with that dyslexia instruction. So everybody's aware, parent, staff of the elementary school, staff of the receiving school, if they're present, hopefully they get to come to the bridging ARD. Everyone knows this kiddo is going to be a continued dyslexia student or not, right? If they're going to be dismissed, obviously we have that dismissal paperwork on file. It's documented. We've got that exit criteria met, dismissal form is filled out. The 504 kids, we got to do the FIE situation on them. We'll get that process started before they enter sixth grade, get all that rolling. Now, we're under that new process that if they've been receiving dyslexia services and they're 504, we got to move in that FIE direction. You scroll down. And then here's the process where I do kind of want to talk about what y'all have been doing and figure out how we want to improve this system, tweak this system. I want to learn about kind of what this looks like. Sharing the names with secondary and either having a bridging meeting in May or prior. Some campuses do them earlier. Now, this might be changing a little depending on what's happening with our zoning changes, right? With some of the new school stuff and some of this happening with grandfathering and all that. The middle school team leads have a pretty solid system, both of them, Amanda Mays and Candace Torres. Amanda's at DSMS and Candace is at SSMS, where they have a spreadsheet that they keep. Typically, what they do is they reach out to me and they ask me for incoming students. And so I'll run a report and give them incoming kids like later in the spring as we start to have ARDs finalized, paperwork finalized, and they start to put together sort of an organized spreadsheet of master scheduling, I guess, that they share with their admin. And this is to help them plan for classes. So they can share it with their counselor. They can start figuring out what their periods and classes are going to look like. So for that purpose, they kind of need to know, right, like who is going to need dyslexia because who is going to need that elective and who's going to need to have that class on their schedule. So kind of pitching to the group, what have we done in the past for that? / what suggestions do y'all have for how we could make that cleaner or better for the 5th to 6th crossover?
I can speak. I know that Callie and Debbie, we always used to make a time when we would go over to Sycamore and we would bring
Okay.
as much of our like file folders and data and stuff that we keep on our kids with us. And we would give them to Callie so that she had that information. And then we would have our list of students that were continuing, and we would just give a brief overview of each kid and where they were and personality and how they were doing. And then she had that list. So we had a physical bridging meeting. And I don't know, I thought it worked well, but Callie, you can speak to if you wanted more or different.
No, you described it perfectly. That's what we need. We need a list of names of the kiddos that are continuing. And we need folders if you have them, because then I will build a folder over here. And then, confidential information if you have a file folder with that in it.
Didn't we also have like a spreadsheet that we had the names listed and the concept number?
Right, exactly. So typically the interventionist at 5th grade will share a spreadsheet, and it will contain the names as well as where they ended in the curriculum. That's really important for grouping, because once I get those names, I group them according to where they ended on concepts. And I share that with the counselor, and then we start building the schedule for next year, that kiddo's schedule, because dyslexia has to be scheduled first, and then they have their cores, and then their elective schedule is built around dyslexia, which is mandatory if they're continuing. And then what's also helpful is sometimes the interventionist will make notes in that spreadsheet. This kiddo, strengths and weaknesses, things they need to work on. Now, it doesn't have to be that detailed, but I have to have what concept they ended on. Does that make sense? And as Erin described, she and Debbie would come over, but it can be a simple Google Meet. Kim Cook and I do a Google Meet. And then I went over and picked up the folders if y'all can't make it over here. And then, of course, my SSE people, it's just a simple thing for me to walk over there and get them, and us to find a time to collaborate. So,
What about folders of students we dismissed? Do y'all still want to have those?
they're considered monitors, so I keep them here in a physical file cabinet.
Okay.
Because, as y'all know, monitored students, they may have been dismissed and may fall into trouble, and then we need to have a meeting. So I need those documents to refer to.
So Aaron in the chat is saying, I would love to meet with WSC and DSC in person. Just going off concepts has been hard to group. I would like all folders and binders. Awesome. Okay.
And kind of the same conversation, but not for middle school. But when would like the elementary specialist kind of have an idea of where students are being moved so that we can do the same thing?
Great question. So I think hopefully we're going to know they just released the grandfathering guidelines. And I think our goal is like late February, early March, we're going to know sort of where people are going to be and more about what programs, like special ed programs, are going to be at number 6 at Wildwood. So we'll have more of an idea about kind of where we're headed for the spring. So we'll know more about like who we need to place where. And so that'll give us a better idea, and I can have more information to share about things, because we're kind of still in like a weird gray area right now.
So it's late February, early March when y'all usually have the meeting, Erin and Callie?
No, we usually have it in May, and that gives you guys time to get everything wrapped up as far as dismissals and meetings with parents. Even if you don't meet, you would have contacted them and let them know your recommendation, because I know some of you need more time to see what concept they're going to end on, and also, have those discussions with parents about your recommendations. And those notes need to be shared with me, because sometimes a parent does not want to let their kiddo go, even if they finish the program. And that's when I need to get people like Anna involved.
Occasionally, I'll meet with Callie or I'll check in with her in March, just be like, hey, I'm not sure about this kiddo. I don't know if we should dismiss or not. And we kind of talk about that kiddo, and she gives me an idea about whether or not, just kind of another perspective on whether or not we should be dismissing. And so that we'll sometimes have those meetings earlier, but usually it's at 2 weeks before school starts or so, or 2 weeks before school ends or so, when things are kind of wrapping down for us and we're pretty finalized. But Callie, did you want us to start inviting you to those 5th grade ARDs if we know that they're going to continue with you? Or
I have been invited, but I can rarely attend because I usually have a group when I'm invited. But I don't mind receiving the invitation. And if something is problematic and I really need to be there, just email me. I've spoken to a couple of you about things like that. And I try to attend, but I have an ARD today, for example, and I don't have anybody to cover my class, and I have to be there. So I'm going to have to sit in the hallway when I have my group. It's so if I decline an invitation, just know it's because I have a group. It's not because I don't want to attend.
Yeah.
I have a question kind of on all of that. Whenever you were saying, Anna, that y'all will kind of finalize lists end of February, beginning of March, is that also included? Like, I know we have a handful of kiddos, Ledgestone kiddos, that Rooster will be receiving. So would that list include all of that as well?
Kids that will be receiving dyslexia, continued dyslexia.
Yeah, like not only the kiddos at the new school, but also the rezoning kiddos that will either be receiving or giving.
Yes, we're going to be looking at all of that.
Okay.
yeah,
I think
you guys
too.
have kiddos at Ledgestone that we're getting. I would love to meet with you guys and
Okay.
do like a bridging meeting as well, just so
Okay.
that we have that info and we know where to put them. And yeah, that
We
would be
were
helpful.
kind of talking here. We were going to start that just like a Google Doc with the three of us here. I think it's also powerful for all of us to kind of put, and I don't know, Callie, if this would be useful for you too, but it's just nice for grouping to know if students are moving like on pace, if they're tracking at a fast pace, or maybe moving at an incremental pace that they need repeated. It takes them a while to get through a concept, or they need repeated review. So maybe even if it's like a separate tab in the spreadsheet, or even just color coded, that you're going to color code these students green, these students yellow, or these students blue because they're moving at a fast pace or something like that. It's just super helpful for grouping.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing that I absolutely need to know. And also if kids don't get along. Now, I
Right.
can't always create a group,
Yeah.
second group, because of numbers. I started with 37 this year. I have 35 now. So if there's only like 6 kiddos that are on the same concept, say they're all on concept 92, and they don't get along, they may have to be in the same group, but I can prepare for that.
Yeah.
With my,
so you have that information. And then
right.
also, I think include the beginning of year ORF and the end of year ORF would be great too on that spreadsheet.
Yeah, and the pacing is really important too.
Mm-hmm.
I have one group where kids need repeated review.
Yeah.
And if you think they need to be in, now Anna, help me word this. We're all in a special ed setting, but there is a PDI that works with kiddos who need more time and repeated review and need that slower pace.
They need an adapted,
modified instruction.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I need to know that. Maybe they were in a faster paced group when you had them, but next year they need to be in modified instruction.
Right.
And then I would get my amazing partner who does that kind of instruction, and she would have them on her list. Does that make sense to everybody?
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
I have one kiddo right now. She's just not progressing, and she needs to move to a different interventionist who can give her more time. And I don't want to say individualized instruction because that's probably not appropriate to say, but repeated review, reteach, opportunities for reteach, and you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. But
I think
I mean, I understand that, the adapted, modified, the chance to tweak it a little bit.
I think that is what Callie just said is possibly another separate conversation for us to have that because I think it's a huge can of worms. But I know that here, if we're having students that are continuing not to meet like mastery or their goals, and then our first line is to try to maybe move them back and see if maybe they just needed more time in within basic language skills. But then if they still are having a hard time, that's when we are trying to move them to more of a reading by design um, teacher. So maybe just another meeting, we can kind of talk about norming so that when they do get to Cali or, to the middle schools, they're not just now trying to, make those moves. I know every student is different. So sometimes those students aren't identified until fourth and fifth grade. So you're not going to know that they need a different level of instruction until later. But I think that's a really good conversation to have. I'm going to jump off. It was so good to see all of you.
Thank you, Hillary.
Yeah. Bye.
If I could just speak to that very briefly.
Absolutely.
This is data driven, so you will have the data that shows that they're not making progress. So that it could be they need to move to a different program, as you're saying. So just, if you can back it up with your data, then it's kind of like that's the discussion we need to have, and that's what needs to be discussed at their ARD meeting before they transition.
Okay. So real quick, y'all, I have a question for that spreadsheet that we're talking about. Is that something that I need to help y'all create? Who usually creates that or helps spearhead making that? Because I'm happy to help. I just want to make sure, like, where does that come from?
I have a good one that we just kind of I created myself that we used to use at Ross and Saunders at the end of the
Okay.
year to kind of group kids, and I'm happy to Lauren, Lindsay, and I kind of digest on it and then share it out, and y'all can tweak it or change it however
Okay.
you would like. But I kind of already have a skeleton, but totally optional.
That'd be great. I was just, if I needed to find like a good model of one or, but if you have a template or something we can use already, that'd be great. Okay, I'm gonna send, let's see. Kate, can I put you down in the notes for that?
Yes, ma'am. Sorry, I was muted. Lindsay's here now. She got off her meeting.
Hi, Lindsay.
Hello.
Okay. Any other fifth grade bridging kind of thoughts or wonderings? And if they come up later, pipe in. We don't have to just talk about it now as well. Okay, so the next thing on the agenda is we are going to be looking at new phonics materials, adopting new phonics materials. So there is going to be a publisher showcase where they have all of the materials laid out. They're going to be up for review, and that's going to be here at the main office in the boardroom. And it's open for everybody, but you do have to RSVP to come look at them so they know about how many people are coming. And that's going to be on Tuesday, March 11th from 3:45 to 5:45. If you want to come look at everything, preview what they're going to be reviewing, I'm going to be on the Phonics Adoption Committee. Dr. Whitman asked me to join, and I was like, yes, please. I'm super excited to do that because I want to see what we're going to be looking at and talking about and potentially adopting to use for phonics. So if you want to come see what we're going to be reviewing, because I'm also very curious, RSVP, the link is there on the blue underlined portion, and pop by and you can come see all the things that they're going to be pitching to us to get us to buy. But I'm really looking forward to being on that committee because I'm very curious about which direction we're headed in for that. And if you do end up going and you have feedback, let me know. Yes, ma'am.
What do you know the names of which ones they are looking at?
I
Just so
don't yet. I actually, unfortunately, had to miss the first meeting because I was at TCASE.
okay.
So the first meeting was this week, and I was at the conference, so I didn't get to go. But the next meeting is right before our March meeting. So I will have information that I can share at our March team meeting. So I'll be able to talk to y'all about that.
Is it more come and go, or is it you stay for the whole time?
You know what? I'm not sure. I think it's a come and go.
Okay.
I think you come in and you preview them. They just want you to RSVP so they have an idea of how many people are going to potentially show up, and like kind of wander in and out. I don't think it's like a,
Presentation?
but I don't know, Chrissy. Actually, I need to find out because I've been to these before and they actually like have you sit down and they pitch to you.
Yeah, that was, yeah.
So I don't know if that's the model. So let me find out.
Okay.
I'll ask Dr. Whitman because I've done this before, like when they adopt curriculums in districts, and sometimes they like wine and dine you, and they, they talk to you, and it's like kind of. I mean, I don't think they're wining and dining us here in the boardroom, but it's they pitch to you, like they sit down and they show you everything and do like a little presentation. So
Or sometimes they drop everything off and you just look at it.
yeah, like they had the science and health curriculum here for like a couple weeks, and you could just parents could come and preview it. But I think this might be a little more formal.
Okay.
So let me find out, because in her email, this is all it said. I just copied and pasted what she sent out. So I'll get some more info. Let me put that in the notes so I can remind myself. I have to write it down or it goes away. Okay. And April 25th is a PD day. So I know in the past, traditionally, y'all have had a refresh and renew Ross and Saunders update. That's kind of the notes that Carrie left me from the past years. That was kind of the spring training that y'all had. So I reached out to Ross and Saunders, let them know that we were interested in having training from them, how many people we would have. We probably would want like maybe half a day. We wanted the refresh, refine, renew. And so they are working up a proposal for PD and getting that back to me so that we can see how much it would cost and kind of like an official proposal so that we could write up an invoice. So I'm still waiting on that, but that would be kind of our first option to do that with them. And hopefully it's not like $2 bajillion. I can't imagine it would be, but for 15 people, I think it's going to be hopefully pretty chill. And the contact over there is so nice and she's really easy to work with. So I feel like hopefully that'll be an option. And if not, we'll just figure something out, but fingers crossed. So right now, that's the update I have for you, that we can do something on April 25th with them for your PD day. And I'm going to put in here, I will follow up after hearing back from them. And then Janine, did you have anything you wanted to add in? I kind of railroaded over you. You're here, but that's all I had on my list for me at this moment.
I didn't feel railroaded in the least.
Okay.
I just wanted to be here. I love that you had that spreadsheet, or that, I guess, the chart, or choose your own adventure chart for attendance at ARDS.
Yes, thank you, Ann Warren. You got to tell her thank you. She whipped that up.
I will. I'll tell her. Do y'all have anything for me?
Not for whoever, for the masses. I know it's written down somewhere. Can someone refresh me? If a student is D and Q, are we still required to go? Yes, because then we're predetermining services, or no?
The ARD facilitator can be the multidisciplinary team member.
Love
If it is a D&Q and you guys have already participated and there's a record of that dyslexia collaboration, If it's a D and Q, I can understand why some random advocate may point a finger and say, y'all predetermined. But we have to think about the evaluation confers the possibility of placement. So eligibility is sort of determined, or disability, I should say, is determined at the moment of that eval. We go to the meeting and only the ARD committee could then say, okay, fine, here's the eligibility. We're going to place you in special education, or here's the disability and we'll put you in. So for that, and if you guys, I'm building my case to make it make sense. I'm trying to get y'all out of it because you've already done the hard work. So my argument would be, it is not predetermination, rather the sort of the congressionally required activity is all in the, it happens all in that moment of the evaluation. And so as an ARD committee, at most, if a parent was like, well, I think we need new testing, that's fine. That's what we would do to continue down that road in eligibility. And then you guys would have to collaborate again on the new testing. But Anna, I want to hear, because you have touch points with other folks, but I think I feel like I could personally swat down any predetermination messaging because we simply wouldn't say, okay, parents, you win, we're going to put them in. Rather, we would only agree to additional testing or gathering more data. Anna, what do you think?
I agree. I mean, I think I lean into the documentation collaboration part. I think if there's that documentation that they've collaborated, I don't really know how heavy their presence would need to be then. Right. I think if they are a qualifier, an eligible, then it's a different tale. But I think
Absolutely.
if they have documented that they participated in the evaluation, they gave their input, but the student was a D&Q, then I don't feel as strongly about them being present in the actual ARD meeting.
It's definitely not worth missing a group for,
No,
or
absolutely
having to try to reschedule a group.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think that in that instance, that's why we sort of have the ARD facilitators trained up to take on that role so that they could step in. Personally, that's why I feel like we did that, for those kinds of situations where are you really needed to be pulled? Not necessarily. So let's have someone else step in so that you don't miss time with kids.
Typically, when this comes up for me, I just email Anne or call Anne, and she'll let me know if it's problematic and I need to be there. But typically, I email her, do I need to be there? And she said no.
Okay.
But I've also told her if something arises during the meeting, just call me and I'll jump on.
Gotcha.
I mean, that's probably not the best scenario, but
no, I definitely
also look at the
that's like
I look at the evaluation and typically it's pretty clear if you look at the information on that, whether or not you need to be there, if they clearly DNQ.
Yeah.
If you get wind that parents are just absolutely like, no, this is wrong. My GT child, they run their finger along the page, and surely that means they're dyslexic, even though they're GT, and we want you to attend. I guess you could always come just to be that chorus, if you will. Like if in that situation that the parent's coming in and ignoring all data, sometimes it's nice for the diagnostician or school psychologist and that dyslexia collaborator are just there, both able to look right at them and say, you are incorrect. In a very nice way, in a pleasant way.
I like how you got close to the camera for that.
I do. I like to do that.
Really leaned in.
Yeah.
Great question. Yeah, I feel like I definitely agree with that. For sure. It feels like a tricky one because it kind of feels like you just would want to know for sure that you don't have to, but I feel like you've clearly participated in the way that you need to. That's kind of how I feel.
Well, Anna's so adept at, she just is an amazing facilitator, and she
She's so
has that
good.
Awesome.
dyslexia and has done all the
She's
trainings.
really good.
Mhm.
So she's very confident in her role. So I
Yes.
never worry
And
about
so
it.
she would absolutely be able to partner with Ari or
That's right.
Even though Isabella is very new to being a school psychologist and a contract employee, she would be able to partner with her and make her feel very comfortable and confident in a no. And again, if it
do
just gets
we-
really, if it ever gets really ugly, we usually just say, sure, we'll do another test. Because that's pretty easy to say. And then that just kicks the argument down the road. And then I come to that next meeting, or Anna.
Yes, Anne is incredible, and I'm so glad that we have her. She's great. I love Anne. Aaron, we were just talking about the showcase. We were wondering if it's like a come and go thing or if it's a presentation.
No, it's a come and go thing. They're going to have tables set up with all of the
Perfect.
different options. And I think it was going to be by next week. Anything that was like in your like hand tangible, anything that was not just online, but any samples or anything, were going to be in the kinder through third grade. Somebody on that campus in that grade level is going to have that material that you could go and actually look at over the next few weeks.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Because Rhonda said that she was going to try and send it out to all campuses. She was supposed to get them today or early next week, and then she was going to get them sent out after that. And there are representatives from kinder through third from every elementary school on that adoption committee. So there should be samples that you can look at. But the thing at the board meeting is a come and go. And there are going to be materials to look at. Some of them are all virtual, but they would have computers set up for you to look at the materials there. And then they have rubrics. So you can fill out a rubric and give your opinion on which one you want. And that's open to community members, teachers, anybody who wants to, parents, anybody who wants to attend and give their opinion.
Nice. Okay. Rubric will be available, fill out to share opinions on various
Adoption options.
Okay.
Yeah.
Love it. Okay, good. I won't have to email her. That answers the question. Thank you. Yeah, I was not sure just because it was like you RSVP, it's a set time. Are they gonna like make you sit down and
Publishers were
listen?
going to have like some refreshments, or they were going to try and have like door prizes or giveaways or things like that, because they can't do that on an individual basis. But if the whole community is invited and it's one time and everybody has equal opportunity, then they can offer things like that. So she just wanted an RSVP because they were wondering about how many people
Yeah, that makes
might
sense.
show up to this event. That's all. But she
So
said
I had to
if you
miss
RSVP in
the first meeting. Aaron, can you tell us anything about the first meeting?
It was just really about how the process goes. And so
Okay.
there was one meeting. This March 11th is going to be the next meeting. And then there's another meeting in April where the campuses are going to bring their their recommendation. And then at that April meeting, as a committee, they're going to decide which one they want to recommend to the board meeting at the end of April.
Okay.
So this was just an overview about what's going to happen. This is when you should get your stuff. This is the rubrics, and these will be coming. And then the March meeting is where everybody's invited to look at stuff. And then April, we kind of decide which one we like and which one we're going to present based on everybody's feedback.
So maybe on our meeting on the 14th, would campuses have had a chance to look at things? Like
Yeah, they should.
so could we talk at our meeting then? Would people like, if I put that on the agenda, like for elementary campuses to have a chance to share out about their opinion?
Mhm.
Because that would just help. I mean, I'm on the committee too, right? So that would just help me inform me with like not that I'm like dumb about phonics, but that would just help me with like what, the good direction is for what we're thinking.
Yeah, I think for
Okay.
sure.
I love it.
Because, I mean, our first grade team gets a rubric. Why can't dyslexia team get a rubric too?
Right. I just think that could be helpful. I'd like to just hear what y'all think. I mean, y'all have very expert knowledge. So, okay, love that. I'm going to put that on our March agenda for sure. Let me put that in the notes. Doo-doo. Okay, so if you scroll down here at the bottom, this was a suggestion for our collaboration time. A couple of you reached out about this, a few of you actually, and we can also continue this conversation throughout the next few meetings if we want, because I feel like this is something that we can work on through several rounds of meetings. But looking at our exit criteria and kind of revamping it potentially. So thinking about having it reflect maybe a little bit more of what we cover in the program. So thinking about putting mastery checks on there, maybe adding spelling, how many syllable types have been covered, etc. So first, let me stop sharing so I don't make you dizzy. I'm going to pull up the current one and we'll look at that one together. I know all of you have seen it, but that way we can just have it. Dun, dun, dun. Okay. Oh my gosh, too many tabs. Here we go. Okay. All right. So, on this one, obviously we have our criteria here. So I think what we're thinking about is maybe adding in more specific things. Is kind of what the suggestion has been.
So are we talking about like instead of completion of 2 years and the evidence-based and substantial progress, those can be kind of subjective. So we would maybe make those a little less, well, it's not subjective for the 2 years, but
Right, that's very
Yeah.
important
I think
because by the
2
time a kid
years.
gets
Yeah, I think 2 years I'd like to keep. I don't know, maybe like substantial progress on mastery checks, maybe just tweaking what that says. Like mastery check, maybe, I don't know. Y'all think about it. What would that look like if we used mastery checks but just changed the language?
I usually attach the mastery check data for the year. And so when that's attached, the committee can see what areas they mastered and which areas they haven't mastered. So I
What
don't know if
about,
that's
we were just chatting. I had a R 2 weeks ago, and the kiddo has made substantial progress in the program, but still in early book 2. So I just gave the last mastery check of just book 2. I didn't even go to book 3, right? And just to show that he benefits from that explicit teaching, and he is doing so well because he's getting taught that. And so I gave him I don't know what mastery check that is, 7 or 8, I don't know off the top of my head. And so for spelling and for reading, he was in like the 50s and the 60s. And so just had that as in our staffing as a talking point of saying like, and whenever you look at syllable division patterns, I think there's like 9 total. Well, at the beginning of book 2, they've only learned 2, and it's just changing the accent. It's not even vowel, consonant, vowel yet. He hadn't even got to that. So I just think that's super important, because when you ask that question, like you were saying, like, yeah, they have made substantial progress. And yes, their, you know, ORF is up. And so it's maybe still not where it needs to be. But when you look at it like that, you can say yes, but we're just not where we need to be yet, you know? So I think that kind of like that backwards planning, right? Like this is our end goal. And so we really need to have that data piece whenever we're talking about exiting kiddos.
Also,
Sorry.
I was just gonna say, I don't like that it says student has met at least 2 of the above exit criteria. Like, I feel it should be majority. Like, I don't know what that cut up, but I don't like that it's just 2 because it's like, sure, you can do great in 2, but like you're missing the whole other component of it. So I don't love that one. So if that could either be
That's
bumped up or go
That's
away.
exactly what I was going to
This one?
say.
That part right here?
Let's do, it's the first question at the bottom of the yes, no column. It says
Oh,
student
this
has
one.
met at least
Yeah.
2.
Lindsay, that was what I was just about to say, that I feel like 2 is way too low.
Too
I
low.
think that it should be 4 to 5 for sure. And maybe this one and a couple others, because if they're not showing progress on, I don't know, like I feel like I think that the criteria is okay. It's just the only 2 of the exit criteria. Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
Well, I think like
I
we have to look
agree. I
at
would
the
say
whole
4.
child,
Mhm.
like their whole
Picture.
the whole picture of them. And like, yeah, they're doing great in the classroom. Yeah, they're, sure we can put star on there, but yeah, they're doing great in our classroom. Yeah, they can do, I used to just give all the mastery checks. Like I would just keep going until they would tap out to just say they have the next, whichever ones. And then till they have just maxed out to like, they're not making any growth anymore. So just kind of, and then put that, look at it at TEKS kind of like, I know we're not TEK based, but it does kind of align to grade level TEKS on some of them. Just to say like, well, they don't know this yet, but they're going to get this when they get to this grade level. Right. So just to kind of look at it from that lens too. So not even just mastery check, but keep going until they tap out. But
That was my thing too, because I agree that, maybe they don't know everything in Mastery Check 9, but also they haven't been taught that because it's above their grade level. So we keep them in even though they're performing above their grade level because they haven't finished that last Mastery Check. Or yeah, that was another question and I don't have a good answer to it.
I love that comment, Erin, because I have a case manager who's pushing back on me about my recommendation. She wants the kid to exit this year, but he's reading like 75 words a minute, 4th grade level passages. And whoever said they gave a mastery check above where they are, like in book 3, that's brilliant. Because if I have that information, then I can say, look, they're having trouble with irregular vowel pairs or whatever it is, or shun. We're not even getting to
for
shun
the
or shun.
parents too, for the parents to understand that. And, and they're like, we see it and his confidence, this and that, we don't want that to go away. And so just for them to kind of see our roadmap too, it's not subjective of what we think, it's our program and curriculum. So
Can I ask about this one right here?
We have risk review. I gotta go. Bye, guys.
Okay, bye, Erin. Bye, Leslie. This one, I think it's fine, but the only thing I'm thinking is like for sometimes for our students, like especially our students in special ed that might be getting like a lot of adult assistance, and they might have like notes in Skyward, let's say, next to grades that say like this was given with several retakes or several adult accommodations or something. Is that impactful at all towards this? Like I just don't know if that's
I always collaborate with the classroom teacher.
okay.
When I am thinking about this, like I never just do this on my own. Like I go and talk to the teacher and I ask about their grades. And so I kind of expect that if that's what's happening to be noted on of like, yes, they are making these, like, I'm not going to get it just from like Eduphoria, what their grades are. I'm going to get it from the teacher, and I want the feedback of how are they actually doing? How much
Yes.
reteach are you doing? So this isn't just a me one-sided, it's a collaboration.
Sometimes like a 93 looks like a 93,
Right.
but it's like, it's with a lot of assistance. Do you know what I mean?
If it's a 93 and they're in modified ELA, and like you said, Lindsay, you have to talk to their ELA teacher
Yeah.
because they work with them closely in a different setting, and the grade may be a 95, but they may have had a lot of retakes, a
Right.
lot of reteach, they
Yeah.
may be in tier 2. So that's so important.
And then we are going to need to tweak this for this part, correct? See the highlighted part here? Because they're going to now be, if they're receiving SDI, dyslexia, they're going to be moving into having an FIE. So I know there's still some kids, but for the future, we're probably going to have to tweak this form to indicate just art committee, most likely. We still do have some friends, but we're going to have to, like, up here, this part, and then this part right here. Agreed?
I agree that
Yeah.
that won't be.
Just because
No.
that's changed, right? I mean, just because that's a little different. Okay. Why does it say this? Ouch. Oh, Lauren's here. Okay. I'm going to put that on the agenda. Okay, so anything right now that you feel is urgent that we would want to include on there? That's an immediate need. Or could this be an ongoing process?
I think maybe an ongoing, like, marinate on it, come
I
back
think
to
so
it.
too, just because we still do have like that last tiny little bit of handful of kids that are transitioning over from 504. So we have an opportunity to kind of like move it along with them and then maybe start fresh with sort of an updated form after all of those kids are moved over, if that makes sense. I'm very open to revamping it though, to what fits for y'all's kind of eyes. I definitely want it to, ooh, where'd it go?
I would just say, I don't know if this is relevant, but definitely keep that in there. A student does not meet the criteria, but parent wants to pull them out against your recommendation tag, because that's
Down here.
that last thing. We got to keep that in.
I think that's important, Callie, for sure. To note that you, as the educational expert, wanted to continue that instruction.
Right. Because if the kid next year starts to flounder, well, we have it on record that the parent wanted to pull them out against our advice.
I think that's important. And I mean, we have a couple of situations right now that I'm involved in. The kiddo has dyslexia. The parent has not wanted them to have specially designed instruction in dyslexia at school. They receive in-class support. They read at a very low grade level and they really have a hard time. Their anxiety is through the roof. They are exhausted when they go home. It's really quite tough for this kiddo. And I'm not saying that, that would fix everything, but I certainly think it would offer a cushion of support for this kid and give them something that could help them access their education. And so I think it's important to note that that was a decision that was sort of made outside the scope of our educational recommendation.
Sorry, I just got here too, y'all. Can
Hi,
we?
Lauren.
I am so sorry. My ARD was an hour and
Oh,
10
no
minutes.
problem. I figured that's what happened. I was like, oh, she got sucked
If we're
in.
all, yeah, if we're all using dibbles though too, like I see it says student scores at grade level proficiency in majority of skills. I've found in ARDS, like that's like a to be able to tell where a student is reading as far as on grade level, or to say, well, they're reading here and that these word many words correct per minute, and that puts them in between the 10th and the 25th percentile of their peers. Like I feel like that's kind of like some solid information that a parent would be like, oh shit. You know what I mean? Like maybe we need to keep him in dyslexia because this is working or this has been shown, because like I'll start with, hey, we were here at beginning of the year and now we're here and our end goal is this. And so they're like, oh, I get it. So if maybe like adding, because I know what GORT is, the Towry gets me. You know what I mean? Like I don't have access to, like, what is that? Should I know what that is?
I don't know what that is.
Yeah, like I know that I don't have
It's
access to the GORT
It's
stuff.
spelling. It's the test that they qualify, like the LSSP gives. So it's the tower, and so it's a spelling, and then the GORT's the reading one.
Janine,
So
what
those
is it?
those would be in the initial like FIEs. So that's not even anything we need to have on there. So that can definitely come out. I would put dibbles and put like their percentile. I think definitely.
And for me, for secondary TMSFA, Texas Middle School Fluency Assessment. Because I note that sometimes. But you're right, we don't use Tower or GORT.
Yeah.
That's an evaluation.
Can we just take that out right now? I'm okay with that. I didn't even know what that was. Is that dumb of me?
No, I mean, none of us are asking. Like we've had this form and none of us are like,
I was kind of like, if I say it, is that going to look bad? But I didn't know what that was. Janine, what is it? Janine, tell me.
She's made notes, Anna.
I have to find my unmute. The tower is the test of word reading efficiency. And
okay,
so
that makes sense.
It's just yet another way to kind of look at how, like rapid automatic naming using entiring words. It gives us a glimpse of orthographic processing.
Okay.
Because the way these words are set up, you can't use context or anything like that. So it's just another way to dig around in there.
Okay.
And we don't let y'all use it. If you asked me, I'd be like, no.
So take dibbles and GORT. That's what we'll have there.
But who does the GORT? Like I wouldn't, if I'm
the evaluator does the GORT.
So we take out GORT too?
So you guys, we used to have a GORT on every single campus, and that when we like 4 directors ago, what was his name? Why can't I remember his name? Anyway, 4 directors ago, he got a GORT for every single campus, but that is also when the reading specialist would do dyslexia testing. That's like so far back, it was before we added our own internal dyslexia evaluator. But that's why it was still on there. Y'all might find a GORT on the campus because we bought them for the campuses. But y'all don't have to touch it. You don't need it.
Take it off.
I mean, I'm okay with just putting, for example, dibbles.
We agree. But the middle school one too.
Yeah, and then the middle school one for Callie, because Callie, you said you do use that TMSFA, correct?
Yes, the TMSFA.
So, Kelly, is it okay that it's up here too?
Oh, I forgot that.
I mean, it could be.
There's one. If 7th graders fell star, we're supposed to give them the reading passages TMSFA.
Right.
And down here, I give the word reading fluency TMSFA 3 times a year.
So why don't we just leave it on both?
I think it's okay. It may be redundant, but
you could say dibbles or TMFSA. You know what I mean? Not saying that you have to give both, but I mean it's different if you're measuring it in different.
I give both. But I mean it depends.
I mean they're 4 examples. It doesn't necessarily mean
it's mandatory.
Right.
It doesn't have to be mandatory, right?
Yeah, I think that's fine.
Hi, it's Erin.
Hi, Erin.
I'm just kind of half listening as I can.
Yes, please.
I think that I would take it off of where, because I do put their MAP scores, and to me, MAP is different than the TMSFA. Like TMFSA is doing more of the fluency and then a retell, where MAPS is more like the comprehension. So to me, I don't
Talking about
think that
this one, Erin, or this
TMSFA,
one?
yeah, sorry, where it says student at above grade level on universal screener. I don't think it should be there. I think it
MAP
fits
should not be
better
there.
where Dibbles is because it's more like Dibbles.
Put
Like
MAP down here.
it's a fluency check. So it's not really, it's not showing any kind of comprehension, which I feel like I don't even know what map fluency is. Do we do map fluency?
That's for elementary kiddos.
So is that supposed to be more like the comprehension, or is that still, because I guess what I'm asking is like, are we marking about fluency in two different sections?
If I could just, I don't disagree with you, Aaron, but TMSFA, if it's up there with the comprehension measures, the retail component kind of measures their working memory and their comprehension level with their ability to retell what they read about. So that's a consideration, but I think if it's in one place and not the other, it should be fine.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, whatever. I normally put their map score there anyways, and then I put their TMSFA I've been doing with Dibbles anyways, because but I mean, I'll just clarify which one I'm using when I fill it out. So if that works for you, then just, yeah, leave it in both, and I'll just clarify when I'm filling out my report that it's this one, not that one.
Yeah.
So are we happy with the way it looks, or do we need to, oh, god dang, or do we need to remove something? Are we okay with that right now?
Mhm.
Yes.
Okay. So I think for now, we made a couple of tiny tweaks, but we can continue to look at this. So what I'll do is I'll say we updated this February 2025. Okay. Okay. Okay, so we'll go ahead and we'll put those updates for now, and then we'll have that as a continued kind of ongoing process. So we removed Gort
Gort.
and we added okay, I'm updating the notes as we go. All right, y'all. Love it. Okay, oops, god dang. Okay. So that is, let me reshare this one. Let me go out of here so I don't make y'all dizzy. Always do this. Stop share. Back to the notes. Okay, 1 second. I keep always do this where I have too many tabs open. Please share. Here we go. No, that's not it. Hmm. I'm crying. Okay, here we go. All right. So that was really kind of the last big thing we had, but we can open it up right now for any questions that may have come up, wonderings.
Okay, since I wasn't here, let me ask all my questions.
Of course.
Did we or does anybody have like a set of expectations that they send out to teachers like at the beginning of the year? And I asked this question. Did you all talk about that? I know
We did not. We did not yet, Lauren.
just real quick, and it doesn't have to be done today. Is there something that you guys send out like that says, hey, this is what we expect because number one, Claire is kind. And number two, I got an email from a student qualified for GT. And so Clancy Lisco, our GT specialist, sent out an email that was like, hey, the student will be on time. Like, all these things that are just like the expectations. Like, how can we be mad that a teacher doesn't send a kid at the right time if we haven't like explicitly told them, correct? Like, does anybody like send something out to teachers at the beginning of the year? Do you have something? Yes, no, thumbs up, thumbs down.
I think that's a great idea, Lauren.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
Kate, Lindsay, and I were going to talk about like kind of creating one just to like set expectations and be like, hey, like your kid needs to set your timer for 3 minutes before. Like, I hate to micromanage, and I just didn't know if anybody else had done that. But again, if we're not setting expectations, then,
May, I feel like you always sent out something like on behalf of like our group last year that you would say like, hey, we're pulling, make sure, like, didn't you?
Yeah, well, what we did was once we got, all the win times situated and all the kids in the groups and whatnot, then we sent more or less like a grade level email that said, okay, win time is from here to here. We would like if the kids are coming on their own, we would like you guys to set an alarm for them to come at this time so they can be in our classroom on time, and then we will release them on time. And then if we're going to go get them, we would let those teachers know, hey, we'll be at your room at blah time to pick up so-and-so. So that they can come be in our room at this time, and then we'll walk them back. So it's just like a simple email to the teachers that have kids that we see. We didn't send it necessarily to teachers that we don't have kids for. But I would love something that's like across district, that's official, because we do sometimes get pushback. Even though we're setting the expectations, we still get the pushback.
So I just sent y'all what Lauren sent me. This is from the GT teacher. I put it in the chat. This is what she sends out to the teachers. So it's like her roundup of expectations.
Let
me see. Oh.
And I think it can definitely be something that, it's not something we need to address like right now, but if it's something that we're either all doing or we're sending something out, you know what I mean? Just to be on the same page so you can say like, well, hey, how would you deal with the teacher that's not sending their kids because, they're going to makerspace, and you're like, well, we sent this out in the beginning of the year. Like, then you have a leg to stand on sort of thing, I think, other than, come on, y'all, like, don't schedule science lab during dyslexia time. That's just best practice.
And I mean, I will tell you, this is definitely a master schedule conundrum that like is so hard because I like speech, resource, all the things, right? Like it's just a struggle that I feel we run into, and I wish it could get better, but there's nothing wrong with putting it out there.
Well, maybe it's something we can like, just kind of think on like, and then, I know Kate, Lindsay, and I had talked about like developing them. So maybe we can come back at the beginning of the school year, one of our first meetings, and like, hey, these are our expectations that we're setting out, and share just kind of like a teacher's toolkit, that kind of thing.
Absolutely.
Like,
there's nothing wrong with that.
So, I mean, just if you guys could start thinking about things that you're just, because at the end of the year, you always remember like, oh God, this drives me crazy. And at the beginning of the school year, you're like, new year, oh my God, like I forget about all the problems. And then you're just like, ugh.
And you can always refer to it, I mean, it's just a reference back to it. Like, hey, these are the guidelines when they come to us. And it would be
great too, just to have it and send it to teachers as new kiddos qualify. I know we've had some new teachers here this year, and that have even come in mid-year. So just send them how we send to parents, like, welcome to dyslexia. We can send it to teachers too, like, welcome to dyslexia. So we'll work on it.
Yeah.
Happy Friday.
I think that could be something else to add to an ongoing agenda.
Yeah.
And I like having one like kind of, I mean, there may have to be small tweaks per campus, but I like having some kind of like cohesive language as well, where it's kind of like, hey, this is like kind of the expectation across the board,
Like not telling them when to set a timer or, like, but to set a timer before your kid is supposed to be, before your kid's dyslexia time. Like they need to be butt in seat at this time. So however time you think that this kid needs to get from my class, from your class to mine, set it. But butt needs to be in seat at the beginning of, something like that. Okay, I'm done. We can think about it later.
I mean, this is like very clear, the one in the chat.
Yeah.
It's very
That's why,
clear.
like, when I got it, I was just like, oh my gosh. Like it was like light bulb, like duh, right? So I don't know.
Yep, I like it. I like it. I like it. I'm going to add that to our March agenda along with we have a couple of other things that we're going to put on there, the phonics stuff and we'll put ongoing exit criteria stuff. I like it.
I
Okay.
had one more question too.
Yes,
And
please.
I sent you an email, Anna, but it was a really long email, so I don't know, but I didn't really see some of the stuff on the agenda. But I had struggled with electives night this year at Dripping Springs Middle School.
Yes.
Like kids not knowing that dyslexia would take a place of an elective, and also parents not even like, I know it's too early to say that the fifth grader is going to continue or not continue. It's just an awkward, like, I don't know how we can handle that situation better. I know I've talked to the counselors before about like when they go talk to fifth graders, I think there's a disclaimer on the form. Like, it's just a very not fun surprise for the parents when they're like, oh, really?
So I did talk to Nadine about this, and I need to probably talk to your campus as well and get some more information because I think it went back and forth. So I don't think it's supposed to say anything on the form anymore, which might be why it's a surprise. But then how are they informed about it? So that's kind of the right, because it shouldn't, I don't think it's supposed to say anything on the form because then it would be like singling out that it's a different kind of class, right? And the kids would be going into a different kind of class. So it's off the form.
Right.
But how is that communicated to them when their schedule is being made?
Several parents have reached out to me and said, why is this not on the form? And then, we communicated about it. It takes a place of an elective, but put your top 4 choices. And then if I receive your child's name from the interventionist, they'll be rostered to this class. But Erin, I think that is a great thing to discuss and bring up. So
yeah,
that goes back to what we talked about at the beginning. When you have their end of the year meetings or you share your recommendation, make sure fifth elementary guys that the parent knows that this is an 85-minute class. It's not a pull-out program. I think most of my parents do know that. I don't. But yes, Erin, you're right. There are some surprises, and they will pull their kid in August when they realize it's a rush, when they get their schedule.
Yes, and that's
And so
I'm trying to be proactive.
Yeah, it's very difficult to rework, to the day before school. And I think it makes our counselor's job difficult, and it also makes our job difficult because if we're expecting to receive that kiddo and we've placed them in a group, just takes some time to sort all that out.
Erin, were those or most of those coming from Walnut, or I'm just curious because I know the teachers try and tell the students like early in advance, but also the counselors didn't come to our campus until
after our electives night. Yeah. And that's maybe what the problem is that we need to be scheduling, the counselors before we have electives night. or, I don't know. I don't know where. I think I think there was a couple from Walnut, a couple from DSE that stopped by. And it was more just well, we don't know yet. So how are we supposed to pick electives if we don't know if they're continuing or not? And I was like, I don't know how, I was like, go ahead. And I don't know I didn't know how to answer that. I guess I should, but.
I told my parents just make your top 4 elective choices anyway.
Okay.
What our ideas are or what our thoughts are. So yeah, you're welcome to have them talk to us.
Oh, tell the parents to contact y'all?
a provider if you're not sure, and because that's a phone conversation. That's not a big deal.
Okay. Yeah, 'cause
Everybody who visited me, I'm sorry, Erin, everybody who visited me on elective night, I said, get with your interventionist, your fifth grade interventionist, if you're not sure if you're continuing or not.
Okay,
Work
perfect.
with them.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, I just didn't know where to. That's makes sense.
And then typically y'all this might be a dumb question from me, but typically would that come from the counselor that it was going to be a lost elective, I'm not a lost elective, but that it was going to be an elective class?
Our counselors don't even know what kids are coming. They don't have that information. But if a parent reached out to the counselor, that would be explained. Like
Right.
if they called the counselor or emailed the counselor, hopefully that would be explained, that it's an 85-minute class.
When would an incoming sixth grader know their schedule?
They won't know their schedule until the day before class starts.
Okay.
And that's why it's so
when it gets a
important
little,
that they know that they're going to be continuing.
But if we have a bridging ARD
Mm-hmm.
in the spring of fifth grade, most likely we would be able to tell a family, hey, your kiddo is most likely going to continue with dyslexia in middle school, and that is going to be an elective.
Right. That
So
should be
it really shouldn't be
that'll
like
clean
a
it up.
gigantic
Yeah,
surprise,
that's great.
right?
Yeah.
Also, not to so I think if us as the elementary specialists can, it's not really an option. I mean, in elementary school, you're still basically kind of in book one. There are very special cases that get dismissed after, in the midst of book one or something. So I think if it's a message from the elementary side that dyslexia is not really a choice, it is an elective, you have 3 other ones, right? If that's an across the board sort of thing. And then ultimately it is a parent's choice, right? But I think what we had kind of fallen back on is that there was this going around with, trying to exit kids early based on numbers or this or that. So I think for a little while that became the norm. Oh, when you get out of elementary school, we'll see if you need it. Well, you're still dyslexic. Do you know what I mean? So it's fixing the exit criteria and then making us kind of say, hey, dyslexia is a continued thing. At least, maybe for 6th grade. I don't know, if that makes sense.
Well, sometimes parents decide over the summer because their kid's miserable and that they're not going to have 4 electives. The kiddo will wear the parent down and they drop the class. Yeah. So if you guys know that the parent is going to go that direction, please let us know. Parent doesn't want their kid to continue.
Or we could make that aware in the bridge ARD too. Hey, this is you know what I mean? How difficult it is to kind of change their schedule. I don't know. I'm just trying to throw things out there.
Well, and I know this is more of I don't even know, but the fact that it's it's on their schedule as a reading elective, and then they come to they don't even know that that's dyslexia class. I just don't feel like anything's communicated. The kids literally show up on the first day and they're like, I mean, I have to explain that it's the reading elective is your dyslexia class. I don't know.
So how can we communicate that more effectively, do you think? What is the missing piece on that?
I think the missing
I want to help
piece
with that because that is pretty cruddy that they may not know. And that's going to make your life as a teacher hard because then you're going to have a bunch of preteens that are like, I hate this.
Yes.
I think it's important, and I hate to put all the burden on the elementary and interventionists, but just communicate clearly that this isn't a pull-out program if they're continuing, but do it in a way that it doesn't, if they need the class, do it in a way that it doesn't discourage them at the same time from taking or staying rostered to the reading elective. And I think the reason it has to be called reading elective is because we can't putting dyslexia on there in some way might make it public that they have a disability.
It singles it out as special ed, or I think I just don't know if they can label it like that.
I think it has something to do with FERPA, maybe.
Well, and I'm thinking the bridging ARDs, you're right. That is a great time it just threw us off, or threw me off at the electives night. So maybe that's just something I need to figure out on the middle school end. But I mean, the bridging art, I think will definitely take care of that conversation. It's just that it's kind of cruddy that the electives comes before that decision is made, because the kids are getting all excited about taking art and musical theater and whatever their electives are, and then they get their schedule and they have reading elective.
Mhm.
I hate that our students are missing missing electives. So is the huddle still a requirement in middle school?
No, not anymore.
It's no longer a requirement. But
No.
so is that a choice for an elective now?
Right.
But
Mhm.
this current year it is required because my daughter had to take it. I wish they would
Hard to say that that's-
continue. I wish they would continue to require huddle, and then as like for our students that need dyslexia service instead of huddle, they would then get their services during that time instead of having to miss electives. It just feels wrong that
Mhm.
we're taking that away from our students. And I
I
think
don't know
parents
what
feel the same way.
I don't know what was involved in that decision. I know teachers here are also disappointed. I
Hmm.
felt like it was really good for our sixth graders, but I don't know. I wasn't privy to why that decision was made, but I think if we
It's
just communicate, we think it's valuable, maybe.
it's definitely this year I've gotten some feedback from some teachers at the middle school that are doing reading by design that those kids have been doing that since they were like 7. And so they're feeling, a little burned out, right, on doing these same kinds of
Yeah,
intense explicit
that's why it's so
instruction.
important you
And
dismiss
so,
if they're not making progress.
right.
If
And so they're
data to show they've been in this since second grade
right.
and they're not mastering the content, then we need to look at another support for them.
Well, and they're also knowing they're missing like band or choir, and it's something where maybe that could light a fire in them or give them another outlet, that they could find that thing that they really love. And they're kind of like in this reading intervention class, just really feeling so like low self-esteem and low self-confidence. And it's just, I don't know, I'm
Nope, I gotta
information
go.
gathering right
I
now.
but I have to
I'm kind
go.
of
I'm
like,
sorry. I'll
you
watch
gotta,
the recording. I have to
okay, thanks,
go.
Erin. Thank you for
Okay,
coming.
sorry.
Um, but I've been getting a lot of that feedback that it's been pretty tough for some of those teachers because they're not feeling like it's the most successful setting potentially for some of these kids, and that they wish that those kids were able to access other things that would probably bring them a lot more joy at school and help them find like their spark.
Well, I will say this at this campus that if they're in modified ELA, and I have one student that was dismissed based on lack of progress, the modified ELA teacher did rewards with them. And I can't guarantee that that would happen at our campus again. It kind of depends on the teacher and what they're willing to do. But in that situation, it was much better for that kiddo.
Yeah.
And I have had kiddos that they just have anxiety and they get depressed. And sometimes I recommend at the end of sixth grade, we got to look at the whole child and whether or not this is benefiting the whole child. If they're coming here and they have just intense anxiety about it and are depressed, then we need to look at whether or not this is beneficial.
I mean, I really agree with that. And it doesn't mean that like, obviously they're not suddenly going to have dyslexia, right? I mean, we're still going to have to address like that there is a reading difficulty, whatever that looks like. Do we continue with some kind of goal, some kind of support? But I I don't know. There's a lot there's some major things happening that are just they're kind of like this because they're not able to access other parts of their world that could be bringing them a lot more happiness. they've just been doing the same thing for so many years. So
Right. I think it's so important to communicate to the parent, with the parents too. And I know you guys do. I'm talking about myself because when I'm making recommendations for next year, I give the parents a call and kind of get their temperature because I know the kid when they go into 7th grade, they're on a competitive volleyball team and they're going to do girls athletics, and that's double blocked. And they have to do in 7th grade now, they have to do health. They have to do health either in 6th or 7th grade, I think. And this kiddo had to do health. So that takes 3 electives, the athletics and the health. And then dyslexia would take the 4th. So, I just have a very frank discussion with the parent and kind of get their feedback on what they think they should do. And they just will flat out tell me, well, we don't want to continue. So that's important to know before you go to the ARD. Anyway, that's just my opinion.
yeah, and I have this one particular teacher, she has met with 2 of her students one-on-one and actually asked them, and they've had pretty like vulnerable conversations. And the kids just say, I don't think I'm not getting anything out of it. Like they're pretty honest. Like they're at a point where they can kind of speak to it. They're like, I've been doing this for so long and I just don't feel like it's helping me anymore. And I want to do other things. And I know reading is hard for me and it's just going to be hard for me.
Right.
Which is
Well,
pretty powerful. I mean, it's like they're like giving that testimony sort of like I just
yeah. And if they're not motivated to do the work, if they don't see the value in it, it's just like it's a battle.
right.
I'm not saying they shouldn't stay in if they are weak in all the categories that, they need to be working on.
And it's not, y'all, it's not like they're being defiant. That's it's not like a thing of a behavior battle. It's just that they're like exhausted. They're like beaten down by it. It's not, there's no behavior problems. It's just, they're just tired. They're
Right.
great kids. Like they're super sweet kiddos. It's just, they're like tired. That's the only way I can describe it.
Well, I'll just give you a for instance, and then I'm going to stop talking. I know I've talked a lot.
Kelly, you're so funny.
But I had a kiddo, this was years ago. This was 3 or 4 years ago, who had been in dyslexia really since 1st grade, 2nd grade. I think they started giving him support in 1st grade. And the 5th grade interventionist had noted this kiddo should not continue in 6th grade. They are not motivated. They've become a behavior issue. And guess what? They came to me and were placed with me. And it was my 1st year teaching, doing this position. And I didn't see that note. It was noted I don't know where it was noted. It must have been noted in the IEP or maybe a bridging doc. And that kid continued with me and he needed a lot of support, but he became such a behavior problem that it was significant. Let me just say that, because he didn't feel like he was getting anything out of it, and he was not motivated. And, so he rebelled a little bit, not a little bit, a lot.
Yeah.
So, but bad on me, my inexperience for not recognizing this kid is acting out and doesn't feel motivated because he's been in it for so many years. Anyway, I'll stop talking.
No, I mean you're spot on. It's tough. It's tough. Well, like I said, I'm still kind of information gathering and I'm learning a lot about kind of just how we've done things and how things have been kind of going. And the first year I feel like that you kind of walk into things, it's hard to just suddenly like redo everything, but I definitely want to learn more about kind of like how we can maybe improve the way we've maybe done things or just like look at things differently. So I don't know. I have some like suggestions or ideas about a lot of things and I'm very open about tweaking things. As y'all know, I'm not I'm not like we have to do it this way. I'm like, let's try things. Let's try if it's going to work and we can do something different. I'm very open to that. So anyway, uh I've been observing and just information gathering, like I said. So we'll see. I like to try different things if it's going to work better, especially for kids and kids like mental health, especially. Kids need services. I mean, they need services. If they need dyslexia services, obviously, hello, we need to provide that. But I'm also like you know, a big advocate for making sure that the whole child is taken care of too. And I want to like really pay attention to that. And if we've been doing cat, bat, sat for 12 years, maybe it's time for us to think about think about something. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. So, um, yeah. So do y'all have any other wonderings? Anything else?
I have an idea for maybe a meeting down the road.
Yes,
We,
please.
we all do a 1 hour PD that's required, but we have never like normed on like what all should we be
I love that idea.
presenting to our campuses. And I know elementary and middle school will present kind of different pieces, but I know all of us like to share certain things. So not saying we all have to share the exact same, but maybe having some pieces that we should all be doing XYZ.
I love that idea,
I don't
Hillary.
know what y'all's thoughts are.
And Lake Travis, they took that off our plate and put it in the 1 hour, like the beginning of the year, like we used EduHero. And so there was like one that they took it off our plate and gave it for them to do. So I don't know if there's
I'm
something
gonna put look at
individual
safe
1 hour one
schools.
that they have to do at the beginning of the year so that we don't, and then we can just meet with them as needed, and be a resource to them, but just make sure they get those, not a checklist, but like the things that need to be discussed. A 1 hour update from that. And then, yeah, I would prefer that.
Lindsay, I remember you mentioning that to me, and so I put a note in here in our notes that I'm gonna look in at the safe schools and talk to HR because remember at the year we take bloodborne pathogens, all the things. There's a whole bank of videos in that library, and there's more than just the ones we take. And so you can select other ones. So I don't know if there's one that exists. It's possible to add to the collection. So let me look into that because if
I'd
there
also
is
like to
something where
know,
we could add it in and that would fulfill it. So
like the population of GT kids versus the population of dyslexic kids, and we all have to take a 6 hour GT update regardless of what position we have. So it's like we don't come across a lot of GT kids, which maybe that's why they're testing more. But I mean, dyslexia and dysgraphia affect,
I
I
know.
feel like, whole.
And I will tell you a little bit about that is that that's required by the state and dyslexia stuff is not,
Okay.
which is very weird.
Yeah, well, that's helpful to know that it's not a district choice, that they're not.
Yes. And so what Carrie did in the previous years is that she decided to be a district that actually was at the forefront of that and required this district to make dyslexia a priority. So dyslexia PD is not required anywhere else by the state, but she made it required here. And so that's a trend like we've continued because it is important. I mean, very important. But like the state doesn't say you have to give, your teachers this amount of blah, blah, blah. It only gives us the outlines for what you guys have to have, to be instructing students. And what the SPED teachers on that side have to have. So the PDIs. Anywho,
Do we
I
have to
am
submit
pro
that
continuing
information?
it, but I do think we need to figure out like kind of what it looks like and if it's aligned. Because this year, you're right. It was kind of like, I'll use this, I'll do this. Like I did it during back to school week. I'm going to do it during a faculty meeting. Like, kind of what is it? Um, so I really like that idea. And then just if there's an easier way to do it, I'm happy to explore that. So let me play with that a little bit and see if we can figure something out. And even if we don't do it like in the package, that were given to teachers, we could just have them watch that video. Like we can still just send them a video. Do you know what I'm saying? Like we could do something. So I'll figure it out. I'll play with that a little bit.
Sounds good.
I had another thought I was going to say, but then I forgot what it was. Oh, I know what I was going to say. I feel like the state is probably going to move, though, in a direction where eventually some of those things are going to be required. That's just my gut feeling is some of that is going to probably change just with all of the changes that have happened. I don't know. I feel like it's just going to have to. I feel like they're going to make everybody do dyslexia stuff. Like, how could they not, you know? But I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. All righty. Love that. Thank you, Hillary, for that. That's a really good one. Anything else on the top of your heads? Not at the moment? Okay. Well, I will send this recording. What I'll do is put it on a YouTube, make it a YouTube video. I have a little YouTube account, so I'll send it as a link so you can watch it on YouTube, and I'll get that uploaded today and send it out to you. And if anything comes up, please send it my way. Notes are here in the running agenda. Don't hesitate to reach out as always. Happy to help you, look at things with you. Try to be as responsive as I can. So please reach out. That's me typing to you. Weird way to type.
Like a bunny rabbit. There's a bunny rabbit typing.
I was a UIL typing champion. Have I ever told you that?
Get it, girl?
I did UIL typing. Isn't that funny? And so did my dad. It was like a family legacy.
Nice.
I did it too, but I was not a champ.
Is that your fun fact that you share?
Like dinner parties, cocktail hour.
Definitely. And it's probably like maybe the dorkiest thing that you
You're
could
just gonna
ever
lie.
share.
I love it. How many words do you need to do a minute?
103.
Woo!
Thank you. Yeah, it's really not cool, but it's
I
definitely
don't know what's
something.
wrong with I don't know what's wrong with me and my competitive nature, but I'm like, as soon as we finish, I'm timing myself and I'm going to see if I can get 103.
Well, Hillary, I'm gonna tell you something right now. I can't do that anymore. So if you do more than that right now, you've beat me. I can't do 103 anymore. I was like 14 and I did that. So, I mean, there's no way now. I mean, I'm sort of okay, but I feel like that was my only focus. That's all I was doing. Like I had nothing else. There was no this. You know what I mean? It's all I was doing. That and like reading Teen People.
For sure.
That's all I was doing.
It was that instant messenger that you were doing.
I did have aim. I did have aim. Yes, I did. I waited for that little that little sound effect. All right, y'all. This doesn't need to be on YouTube, so we'll cut off the recording. I should stop recording.
Sorry, we're Friday.